What's going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a great day. So it is 1 o'clock in the morning. Actually, it's more like 5 till, but it doesn't matter. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning, and I should be asleep right now. I'm not, clearly. I'm actually here to talk some Texas Chainsaw Massacre with you guys. And I would like to start this thing on this channel where I dive into franchises and talk and discuss each movie one by one. And I thought the Texas Chainsaw Massacre would be a cool place to start because I don't ever really get to rewatch movies the way that I want to. I guess I have time to rewatch movies, but I never take the opportunity to, for whatever reason. And this is going to give me that opportunity to revisit movies that I should have seen more times than I actually have. So I'm going to start with the two most recent movies. And in this video, or the two most recent movies that I've recently revisited within the last day or so. We're going to start with the 2003 remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I want to go ahead and just state that I actually like this edition of this DVD because there's actually some cool content in here. You get this thing, or the cover, and you get the full chainsaw blade if you pull out all the way. You can go ahead and insert That's What She Said. We've had our laugh, let's move on. So yeah, that's pretty cool. As well as you get this little envelope here that has, you pull it up, pull it off, and there's like evidence photos. If that's being held the correct way. This one I actually like. It's a picture of Leatherface. My hand was blocking his face, so that wasn't a great shot. Yeah. And you get all kinds of other photos, and that's pretty awesome. So this edition of the DVD, this is the one that I would recommend you buy just because the value of it, and there's just some cool stuff in it. So yeah, that's pretty fucking awesome. So I'm gonna go ahead and just say, so Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003 remake. Now I did do a review of this when I was doing traditional movie reviews. I did do a review of this movie years ago. And that's an old video, and I don't like it, and it's a little outdated. I gave it a very negative review. And that was based on a couple things. I had seen this movie, I think I had seen it once when I was young, and then I watched it again many years later as an adult. And when I went back to this movie, I had been in the not chat groups, holy fuck, that's years and years ago. I had been in the Facebook groups, the horror groups and whatnot, and there was a lot of people that were claiming that this movie was better than this film, and I still beg to differ. To me, this is the greatest horror film ever made. It's my favorite horror movie of all time. It is fantastic. So there were people saying, well, I think this is better than the original. And they weren't saying, I think it's better than the original. They were trying to project onto me that this is objectively a better film than the original. And that kind of soured me on this movie a lot. And I remember going back and rewatching it and just thinking, what, I don't get it. I don't see it. How is this better than the original? So I picked this movie up and I picked it off my DVD shelf. I put it in, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the movie a lot more. And I ranked the franchise years ago. No, it was just like 2 years ago I ranked this franchise, and I put this, I think, dead last. And that was probably a mistake. I was just very sour, very sour about this movie. So when I went back and revisited it, and I came out relatively surprised with how much I enjoyed it this time around. Is this as good as the original? In my opinion, no. Is it good? Yes, it is. It's not close to the quality of the original film. by any means, in my opinion. But, see, I got some notes here, some things I just kind of want to go over. I'm already 5 minutes into this. I'm sure you guys are bored. The pacing, I want to start out with the pacing of the movie, is that my biggest criticism with it is that I felt like it was too slow in the beginning. And you could argue the original is slow in the beginning, but I think that it does enough to build tension in the first act and build a creepy atmosphere that it's enough to grab my attention and buckle me up for the ride, regardless. This, I kind of used to feel that it was just kind of it was just very inconsistent. The pace was inconsistent, where they pick the hitchhiker chick up, she blows her brains out, and then nothing happens. You don't see Leatherface until, like, the middle of the film, which I guess really is kind of like the original. Upon rewatch, I've noticed that the pacing is really not as slow as I remembered it being. I remember watching it and just thinking, this is a lot quicker than I remember it being. I remember the pacing for this movie being just a fucking drag in the beginning. And I didn't feel that way this time. The characters, I enjoyed more than I used to always complain about Jessica Biel's character in this film. I don't mind to look at her. She's a very, very gorgeous lady. So no complaints. No complaints with the characters or with Jessica Biel. And Pepper, I always thought she was fucking smoking hot too. It was the girl from Blair Witch 2, which I love Blair Witch 2. I don't care what anybody says. And I used to not like Eric Balfour for whatever reason, and I didn't mind any of the cast this time around. I thought they actually did well, and I actually thought Eric Balfour did well in the role. He doesn't last very long in the film, but regardless, I didn't have any complaints with the main cast. Arlie Ermy, I'll always defend Arlie Ermy in these movies, these two movies. He's on a whole other level than everybody else, though. That's the thing, is that he acts the shit out of the role, and it's fucking fabulous. The biggest thing that really, Leatherface himself, it's not that I don't like the Leatherface in this movie. He's a very frightening individual, but it just didn't feel like Leatherface to me in the past. And I can see where maybe somebody, I could see it being it's a reasonable complaint. And I think for a remake, it kind of did the right thing and differentiated itself from the original. This whole film is a very different film than the original, the original is, it's a very raw and just fucking unsettling. It almost has like this documentary vibe to it. It doesn't feel like a documentary, but it has that vibe like you're watching a documentary. Where this is just it's your popcorn cinematic slasher film. And that's not a problem. If anything, I think the movie does a great job at that. The storyline, it's very simple. Kids are on their way to a Lynyrd Skynyrd concert. They encounter a hitchhiker. She ends up blowing her fucking brain. She pulls a gun out of her vagina, which that's a negative for me, as she's actually crammed the gun up her vagina and then pulls it out. There's a lot of health hazards with that I would be totally against her cramming a fucking loaded revolver up her vagina, but that's neither here nor there. That's a negative, but she blows her brains out, and they end up in this little town that happens to be, this town happens to house a family of cannibals that are, well, I would say they're going hungry. Leatherface doesn't really look like he's been missing a whole lot of meals lately. They're in trouble at this point. They are in big trouble. That's basic plot. It's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. I'm not expecting Schindler's List. So it nails that. It nails the plot. Simple Texas Chainsaw Massacre plot. Remake. It's not like a sequel or anything. It's a straightforward remake. And they did some different things here. I definitely enjoyed... I didn't enjoy Arlie Ermy as much as Drayton Sawyer. That's just because I'm such a big fanboy of the original. But he, like I said, he's ultimately... I think he's more frightening than Leatherface in this film. I think that he is just... The way they do the whole cop... Like, we find out in the film after this that takes place before that he was not appointed to being a cop. But you didn't know that the first time seeing this film. You weren't fully aware. We weren't aware of that. So this fucking cop, for all we know, he's a legitimate appointed cop. For all we know right now. And they're just in this horrifying situation where he's a complete fucking psycho. He is a complete... He just nails it. And, you know, what the fuck is the dude's name? The dude that plays the curly-headed nerdy guy. Jonathan Tucker. Jonathan Tucker's character... you know, they have a situation where he's going to pull the trigger on Arlie Ermy. And it's almost like a lose-lose situation because he pulls the trigger and he kills a cop. That's not good. But he understands the situation that he's in as well as the girls. And I personally think the right thing to do in that situation would have been just blow the motherfucker's brains out. And, of course, spoiler alert, the gun did not have bullets in it. That's not good. And, you know, they ultimately pay for that. And it's a shitty situation. The entire situation, from lugging a dead body in the fucking back of the car to stumbling upon a house that houses cannibals that they're not completely aware of. One of them wearing a fucking mask full of skin that's the size of the size. He's built like a brick shithouse. Leatherface is built like a brick shithouse. Wielding a chainsaw and a sledgehammer. It's not an ideal situation. I get it. Not an ideal situation at all. I am sure that those kids would have much rather had been at the Lynyrd Skynyrd concert with their piñata full of marijuana than to be here. But that's just not how it worked out in this film. And that's not how it works out in any Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. The gore in this film. I was getting like way off track there. The gore, I really think they compared to the film after this, they kind of, almost feel spoiled. Because this movie has some good gore in it, but I don't think there's enough of it. Because this is a film... I would have complained if the original film actually had gore in it because of the style that it is. The style of this film is you gotta have the gore. It's 2003. Nobody cares about the theater of the mind thing anymore. I would have just been like, all right, let's just go for it. And they didn't quite go for it in this movie. Unlike the film after this, which I'm gonna do another video on tonight. But the little bit of gore that we do have, like when he's chasing, what's the dude's name? The one that's making out with the Book of Shadows chick. What's his name? Was it Danny or Andy? Does it tell you? No, it don't fucking tell you on there. I'm stupid. I think it was Andy. I think his name is Andy. Where they encounter Leatherface in the house and they chase him outside, and the dude fucking hacks his leg off with the chainsaw. Leatherface does, and you get some good gore there, and it looks fucking fantastic. And he puts him on a meat hook. The whole thing in the basement with Andy and the meat hook. I think that's probably the best part of the film, in my opinion. It's just so brutal. And he's trying to like fight to get himself off the meat hook, and it's just like there's no getting myself off here. And then he has Jessica Biel just put him out of his misery. It's sad. It really sucked for both characters involved. What What else do we got? Like I said, all the acting is actually really good in this movie, and it's paced well. Simple story. There are some negatives. I got some things about it I still don't like. I don't find that the kids, I don't find them to be entirely intelligent. I think that with the dead body in the back of the car, right? What I would have done in that situation, I think, I wouldn't have sat around and waited for the sheriff. I probably would have went to the next fucking town and got help there. Because it's clear as day that they stop at the store, they're looking for the sheriff. The sheriff, okay, I'm going to say this. If I'm a sheriff and I get a phone call saying that there's a group of kids reporting that there is a dead body in the back of their fucking vehicle, I'm going to be on that. Unless I'm in the middle of a fucking heist, or I'm trying to combat a heist, or I'm in the middle of a shootout. That's one thing, but it's clear that he had nothing going on. So, why was his first instinct, or why wouldn't his first instinct have been, and like we said, this is before we know that he's a psychopath, why wouldn't his first instinct have been, I'll be right there. I will be right there. There is a dead body with a fucking bullet hole through its fucking head. That's what I don't get. I don't get why the kids sat and waited. I was just like, all right, well, we're just going to go to the next town and get help. That's what I would have done. Another thing is the chase scene. The chase scene between Leatherface and Jessica Biel and Jonathan Tucker. Jonathan Tucker's character. They're being chased by this relatively large man with a chainsaw. And they stumble upon a little shack. They have to find a way to barricade the door. They use a couch. I'm going to let you guys guess what chainsaws can easily cut through. A couch. I think that I wouldn't have stood there like the imbeciles that they are and waited for him to hack the door down as well as the couch. I think I would have fucking hightailed it out of there. But instead, I just feel like they hid in the house. It's like, go. Take off in the other fucking direction. But no, they go in the house and hide. And I get that you have to have some shit like that in horror films. But, like, that just didn't ring true to me. That did not ring true. And I think another thing I did not like about this movie, and it was cool when it happened, but then you think, well, they kind of wrote themselves into a corner, especially if they want to do a sequel, is the part where Jessica Biel pops out and starts hacking off Leatherface's arm with a meat cleaver. Now, first of all, I don't think that I would have hacked off the killer's arm first. Now, maybe then, okay, sure, maybe go for the arm first. And then why didn't she stand there and hack off his fucking head? Kill the motherfucker. I mean, I get it. I mean, he could lose his arm and then it could get infected and it could kill him, but at the same time, that takes time, whereas if you just stand there and hack his head off right then and there, you don't have to worry about him fucking coming back. And I just think it was bad writing, and I don't think it was intentionally bad writing. It's just, if they wanted to do a sequel, they couldn't, which is how we ended up with a prequel instead. Because, and I think the prequel was well warranted, and we'll get into that in the next video. But, yeah, there's some things, like where the original film, there's nothing about it that I don't like. This movie, there are some things about it I don't like, but upon rewatch, there are a lot of things that I do like about it now, that I'm not completely sour. And I think the last time I watched this movie, I watched it with somebody that is practically dead to me anyway, so, that kind of probably scared me away from it, but I just grew a set, and I'm like, alright, you know what, I haven't seen this movie in quite a while, why don't we just fucking watch it? And I surprisingly enjoyed it this time around, so if I was to, like, re-rank the franchise, this would probably be a little bit higher up. So, that's that, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003. My mind has changed, and it's not the first time my mind has changed on a film, and it won't be the last time either. So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre beginning video. Peace.